Contact your Helena representative to learn more.
Hi, this is Dr. Sue Stur at Covenant Animal Clinic, your hometown vet in Clinton. Now is the time to protect your pet from heartworm disease. We are now offering ProHeart 6, which protects your pet for 6 months with one simple injection. Get all the details by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties is the leader in fire, water, and mold restoration. See all the many services they can offer your home or business by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator for the U of I extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Good morning, Caitlin. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine. It is kind of cold and chilly, but, spring is coming, as we were talking about off air. It's coming. We hope.
It's just what I was going to say. Hopefully after today, we're off into spring. I had the weather service on last week, and they told me, it feels like we were going to have kind of a downturn this week where it's going to be up and down, but the gentleman thought that once we got into April, things were really going to stabilize like we talked about off the air, and hopefully we're into spring as we get into April. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, it is Illinois, and that can change literally moment to moment. So, but at any rate, Caitlin, I feel like you've brought a really good topic with us today that's going to kind of piggyback off of what we discussed last month. Last month, we talked about preserving and freezing maybe some of those leftover foods that we have collected as we prepare for, the soup season, and we come out of that, freezing meats, freezing vegetables, all of those things. We're going to talk food preservation today, and I know there's a special week coming up kind of promoting the idea of food preservation. What do you have for us this morning?
Yeah, so it's fun how a lot of our topics overlap. Like there's a little nugget of something, and then there's also a different nugget of that same topic that goes into another topic. So coming up next week is Food Waste Prevention Week. And so this is an excellent time to do just this kind of overlap discussion about food preservation along with food waste. So the estimation for the U.S. is that about 30 to 40% of all edible food is wasted. And that's massive. So that is leftovers from foods that we throw out at home. That's leftovers from restaurants, from schools. And this also includes from like farm areas, so foods where the farmers maybe are taking cabbage out of the field and they are pulling off those extra leaves. Those leaves are not saved because they aren't considered edible, so those are tossed out or go, hopefully into compost or some type of other a method. And so I thought we could spend a little time this morning talking about some ideas of how do we reduce waste, not just next week, in a celebration for food waste prevention, but throughout our day-to-day. How do we do some of this? So I think that's where we'll get started.
Definitely. So let's start with the basics of food preservation there, Caitlin. What do we need to consider when we're talking food preservation? And what's some of the data, I guess, maybe even tell us about food preservation?
So this is applicable for anybody. So everybody can do some type of food waste prevention. And we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to do that. And of course, this won't be a comprehensive list because we don't have that kind of time. But one of the first things that is really helpful is this intentional meal planning. So thinking about when you're going to go shopping, when you're going to be writing a list for the week or for the month or however you plan, looking at your week and going, okay, what days are we going to be eating out, where maybe you make sure you don't plan to purchase food for that. And then intentionally thinking about, okay, do I have leftovers already in my pantry, in my fridge that need to be used up? Is there a bag of salad in the back that I should do something with before it goes bad and I would have to throw it out? Mm-hmm. So being very intentional about what foods am I choosing? Am I using foods that are already in my pantry? So I know I go through this every week. I do a once a week planning. So Saturday mornings I get up and I make my plan for what we're going to have that week, and looking at exactly our schedule for the week. Is there going to be a day where we maybe don't have dinner or lunch at home, or we have, something else going on? So I'm looking at what meals do I need to plan for that week? And then I'm looking at my pantry of, all right, well, I still have some rice that I, need to use up, so I don't need to buy any more rice. I can make sure I just use that. I had this last week. We had a change in schedule, and I didn't end up using some of the potatoes that I had purchased from the week before. So I made sure that I was intentional about going, okay, where can I put potatoes in our plans for this week? Because I have these potatoes that are just sitting, and I want to make sure I use those before they get super soft or they start to sprout, and I don't want to use them anymore. And so it's thinking about, what can I do with what I already have? And that's a great, I think to me, that's the starting point for reducing food waste, is start with what you've already got purchased.
Sure. Well, and you talk about that like preserving what you've already purchased. Along those lines is properly storing those things. I get caught up in the throw it in a plastic bag and stick it in the fridge, and maybe that works, maybe that doesn't. How about effective food storage there, Caitlin? What can we do to effectively store some of these things that we're saving, whether it's leftovers, whether it's meal prep for lunches and such? What can we do to preserve those and make sure that they are properly protected?
And this is challenging because every food wants to be treated a little bit differently. So we talk in classes about, if we have something like a tomato we can store at room temperature. It will last fine for quite a while. You can also store it in the refrigerator. We notice that sometimes tomatoes start to get a little mealy in texture as they get, cold, but they will still generally be just fine for what you need. And so there's always differences, right? There's different foods will last at different amounts at different temperatures. So this is about learning about that, and there are excellent resources at Illinois Extension, at our website, as well as other state extensions to kind of help you decide, all right, if I buy these herbs, how do I store these? If I buy a block of cheese, how do I store this without it getting too moldy? So generally, air and moisture are the things that, quote unquote, rot our foods faster. So anytime you have something that has air exposure or water around it, that's going to be a great way for spoilage type bacteria, not the bacteria that make us sick, but spoilage type bacteria to start to decompose that food. So just for today on radio, I'm not going to get into too much of the specifics, but think about ways that you can reduce air. So this is pushing air out of plastic bags if you're using plastic baggies to store things. I'm quite a fan for herbs, fresh herbs, even things that are very high water. So lettuces, green onions, asparagus. I will actually soak those in water like flowers in a vase. And I'll put a little bag over the top of it just to kind of create a little protection from the other things that are flying around my refrigerator. There's different materials, so plastics can work okay. There's more breathable materials that you can also buy. There's cotton coated in beeswax, which is getting more popular as a way to store food without kind of the intense blockage that plastic can give. These are a little bit more breathable. So there's all sorts of things out on the market that exist to help you store your food. So it's very much a practice. It's looking around. It's seeing, okay, if I'm noticing I get a lot of mold on my blocks of cheese at home, how can I change that? And so again, lots of resources online. I won't go into too many specifics today because there's so many food options that we could talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what is kind of the again, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator for the U of I Extension, our guest here on the phone today. Caitlin, what is kind of the lifespan of, let's say, fresh vegetables, maybe packaged dairies? What can we anticipate for how long those can be in the fridge and be good for it? Does that question make sense?
It does, yeah. So if you are buying a pre-made product, so you're buying a jar of salad dressing, you're buying a gallon of milk, a lot of times those will have sell-by dates or best-by dates. So it's going to tell you generally up until that date, the quality is at its peak, but generally you can still consume those foods after the fact. So for a gallon of milk, for example, I will even buy it sometimes kind of close to the sell-by date because I know we consume milk fast enough, but also because it is pasteurized, meaning that it's been heated up so that we kill bacteria, those spoilage bacteria. It actually lasts longer than you might expect. So I usually, for something like milk, I might get a week and a half on that once I've opened it. Something like salad dressing. Salad dressing can last a while, until you use it. Fruits and vegetables, generally, if it's, I always check things in about a week. So if I haven't used something in a week, I'm going to double check it and make sure that it's looking okay. If it's getting a little sad, I will make sure, just again, that intentional meal planning. I'm going to make sure that I use it in some way, whether it's in the next couple of days, or maybe we go back to our conversation last month about I've got extra, a bag of spinach that I'm not using and it's starting to get a little sad looking. I can, drop that in some boiling water to blanch it, and then I can cool it down and freeze it so I can have frozen spinach to use for another meal. So rather than throwing out that kind of sad spinach, I can freeze it as an option. So generally, fruits and vegetables, check them at about a week if you aren't eating them that fast, just to, again, double check if they're starting to look a little wilted or sad, or even if you notice mold, then certainly throw it out.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, Caitlin, let's wrap up the conversation here this morning and talk a little more again about food preservation, and talk to us about regrowing, so you put on your list green onions. Oddly enough, I was using green onions for dinner last night. What can I can regrow these? Tell me about this.
Yeah, so this is really fun. This is a great little science experiment, especially if you've got young kids in the house. But I think it's really fun for adults too, that you can take if you've got foods with roots in them. So you have a whole head of celery with the base still attached. You've got green onions with the whites and the roots still attached to it. You've got like heads of lettuce. If you're buying like a head of lettuce in a store, again, that's still got a core attached to it, you can put the remnants of those cores in just a little bit of water and put them in kind of a warmish space with some light, so maybe in a windowsill. And after a couple of days, you may notice some new growth. So it's going to be smaller than the original food product, but it's a great way to get like a second life out of some of your food scraps. So this is a good way to reduce food waste because you get a little bit more green onion at the end of it. Of course, it's going to be smaller than what you started with, but it's just a nice way to kind of regrow something and have it last a little bit longer.
Interesting stuff. Caitlin, let's take us out on diverting waste and composting. As the summer comes up, maybe folks will look to compost a little bit here this summer, start a new practice. I know this is something that the Extension gets a lot of questions about over time. So how about composting and just I don't say reusing waste, using or discarding waste in a different way, perhaps. How about that?
Yeah, so one goal of reducing food waste is to divert it from a landfill. So if we can use food scraps and food waste in other ways, such as feeding a future houseplant or feeding a future garden, or, creating compost or other things that can go maybe to your neighbor if you don't really want to do any of this kind of gardening. But composting is a great way to do that, and Extension has a ton of resources on getting started. So whether you want to have a very small startup, which is kind of how I started. I had the little small rolling compost bins that I started to learn about. You can also work with worms if you're feeling like you want a house pet. You can have vermicomposting with worms. These are great ways to get kids involved as well. So you can find a lot of resources at our website, extension.illinois.edu, and you can search for composting. There's always gardening webinars and recorded webinars, so lots of things that you can read and watch and engage on.
Caitlin, always good stuff from you. Again, that website one more time, if you don't mind.
Visit us at extension.illinois.edu, and there's a search bar. You can look for composting and food waste and learn about webinars that are coming up, as well as just reading articles and blog posts.
Very good. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension, our guest on the phone today. More to come with Caitlin on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Wednesday. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network. Corn and beans starting the day in the red, and Chicago wheat steady. May corn 428 and a quarter, down 4 and a quarter. July corn 440 and a half, down 4 and a half, and December new crop 463 and a quarter. That's down 4 and 3/4 to start the day. May beans 1191 and a half, down 7 and a half. July beans down 7 and a quarter. 1205 and a quarter. November new crop 1184. That's down 7. May Chicago wheat 543, down half a penny. July wheat is unchanged, 559 and a quarter. September wheat also unchanged to start the day, 577 and a half. May bean meal 339.60, down 20 cents, and May bean oil 47.47, down 95 cents. Opening numbers on this Wednesday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet Service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4Ls with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Connexus will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension with DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Caitlin, let's talk about the Illinois Deer Donation Program. It's funny you put this topic on your list today because I had seen your email come in yesterday afternoon, but I was at a ball game and I didn't get to look closely at it. And I'm getting ready this morning and I thought to myself, I know like it's March, but I wonder if she'll want to talk about the deer donation program. And so here it is, Caitlin. What do you have for us? How did this year's deer donation program go?
Oh, we were so excited. So this was the second year of donation, and our hunters just blew it out of the water. So last year we had a little over 8,000 pounds of meat donated. This year, we just, again, those hunters blew it out of the water. They donated more than 12,000 pounds to the program. We also expanded the territory, so we went from 12 counties to 16 counties this year, and so that meat got distributed to more than 50 food pantries across that 16 counties in East Central Illinois. And so I just want to say thank you to all of the partners that participated. So our hunters, of course, and then we had a number of meat processors throughout that 16 counties that did the legwork of that, right? They processed all that meat for us, and then to our drivers that took the meat to food pantries. And then, of course, to our food pantry managers, thank you for sharing it with your guests and helping promote deer and sharing the recipes that we had and just kind of talking about, general use of venison. So we are super excited. Yeah, I know hunting season has been over for a couple of months, so it is kind of strange maybe to bring it back up now, but we are still wrapping up data and kind of getting our end of year stuff put together. So This is why it's still on my mind.
Sure. Very good. Now, remind us, Caitlin, what's the deer donation program? What is it? Where is it? And maybe for hunters next year that they think this is something they'd like to participate in, just kind of how do they do that when the time comes? Speak to those things.
Right. So this Illinois Deer Donation Program is a partnership of meat processors, hunters, and food pantries with the goal of reducing food insecurity across East Central Illinois. And so hunters will go out hunting. They will take their harvested deer to one of our partnering meat processors. And from there, the processors take care of everything. The hunter is not expected to pay for the processing, and so all of that meat will be ground into burger and then placed in 1 or 2 pound packages by the processor, and then that gets frozen and sent out to our partnering food pantries, where they get to share that meat with guests. And then we have many resources and educational materials to share with those guests about recipe ideas, general nutrition about venison for folks that have maybe never had venison and they're like, what is this? And then some recommendations on storage, because they're getting a frozen product, so making sure that they can safely thaw and cook that product when they're done. So for hunters next year, get your hunting gear ready, get your deer tags if you have the opportunity to purchase additional deer tags and do additional hunting. That's great. I know we have hunters that have said, I want to hunt more, but I don't have the freezer space to go through all this deer. I don't have the network to give away a lot of deer. Mm-hmm. This is an excellent way to keep hunting and still donate more.
And I don't know if you're able to speak to this, Caitlin, or not. Do you envision this program growing, expanding in Illinois? Is that a possibility?
So that's been our goal from the first point, was how do we expand this program across the state so that we can match what other surrounding states are doing with their deer donation programs and other wildlife donation programs. So it is on our goals long term to expand it across the state. We know that slow, steady growth is going to be our goal. So we do have hunters and even meat processors that say, hey, I want to participate. And we go, we know we're working on it. That is definitely a plan for the future to get it across the state.
Very good. That's awesome. Good stuff. We'll look forward to its growth and the things happening as we go along. Caitlin, let's wrap up here this morning. We got a couple of minutes yet still, and just some little spring cleaning tips, and particularly as it relates to food safety and health and all those things. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so this is probably the time people start thinking about, okay, I'm going to open up my house again. I'm going to open windows when the weather gets nice. So also think about ways that you can spring clean your kitchen. So this can be a great time to pull appliances away from the wall and dust behind them, pick up any food particles that are now desiccated behind there. I'm guilty of that. I know I will drop things, over the side of my oven, and I can't quite reach it because everything got tucked behind. Also, opportunity to clean inside. So removing food from your refrigerator and freezer, getting soap and water, wiping down surfaces. You can also work on cleaning your oven. I know that's a very challenging task. I know for me, I really dislike that task, but having clean appliances makes them work better, gives them a longer lifespan, and generally just makes the foods taste better, especially if your oven has been cleaned. It's not having cooked on grease or food particles from past meals. Everything's just going to smell and taste a whole lot better in your kitchen. So add those to your tasks this spring. I know we've talked a lot about involving kids here. This is a great thing for kids to do as well, especially if they're younger and they're engaged and they want to help out. Give them a rag, give them a duster, and let them go to town too, just right along with you.
Caitlin, where do folks go for all things U of I Extension, and perhaps your specific tips on health and wellness and nutrition?
Yeah, so you can find us locally in our offices in Decatur, Monticello, and Clinton, and you can always find us online and on social media. So our website is extension.illinois.edu, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram searching for Illinois Extension, or if you want to find us locally and see the events that are happening in our 3 counties, you can search for Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties.
Very good. Caitlin Mellendorf, Nutrition Educator, U of I Extension. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
Townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomas.